Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. We're breathing. So we are continuing.
We don't know what day or time it is.
Yeah, we're not quite sure what day or time it is, but it is Wednesday at least, and I think we're at the right time. So if you're joining us today, we're going to be talking about we're going to get continuing our payroll fundamentals chat. So we've got Kate from ADP as well as Carrie, Con, and myself to talk about the different. Well, just in general, we're just talking about product agnostic, right? I mean, but then the second half we'll be talking about that topic, but how it equates to respective payroll offerings. So we're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to say the word duty a lot of times. So,
but not the one you think.
No. So payroll duties is our topic of the day. So Carrie, you kind of have some thoughts about, this is one of the things where it could be multiple hats, or one person could wear all of the hats, right?
Right. So as far as the payroll, speaking as a business owner, so I can put my business owner hat on. When I first started, it was just me, and I was C Corp and I did salary. So real easy, boom. I asked myself what I should get paid. I got permission.
You had a nice interview with yourself, and you came to an agreement.
Reviews. It was real easy. Then I hired my first employee. So things do change because you're trying to hire help, and you don't want to have to do it all yourself. So you can delegate some of these duties. You have to track your hours, time off, sick, paid, bonus, comp, all that stuff. You have to lay it all out so you know what different things are going on. I mean, how are you going to track the holidays and vacation days and the sick days and 4th of July and all those things? So you need to.
You feel like those different duties come to light when you're talking about time entry, or do you feel like as a business owner,
as soon as you hire somebody, all those duties come to light? I mean, including, like we mentioned, when I was just B, who gave me an annual review or decided when I get a raise, and tracks all the paperwork behind the scenes. You have to do a W-4, you have to do the I-9. Then, as you grow, you want to add benefits, and then you have to have, do you do that? Are you going to offer health insurance and 401k and yada, yada, yada? So all these different things could be different hats. I mean, you could have someone that's your HR manager that decides whether someone gets, a raise or performance and all that kind of stuff. When you're with small people, it's real easy for it just to be on the owner's shoulders. But as you grow, it's nice to be able to go, you do this, you do this. You do this.
When you brought on that first employee, was that the things that you delegated? Was some of the payroll tasks and functions?
So I was like, we were both on salary. I'm like, you just run the payroll. So it was real easy. But as we started adding hourly people, then because it wasn't time to hire a third full-time person, it was more of, I need someone that can do by the hour. So we had to figure out what's a fair rate. We had to have them clock in somehow. I had to have somebody approve. Did they really work the 40 hours, or did they leave their app on by accident? I mean, things happen. And then you have to figure out, do they get, they're only working 10 hours a week. Do they get the same days off and paid holidays? And it gets real complicated when you grow.
So would you say, like, next to the owner of the company, when you're actually kind of defining those payroll roles, I know from my time at Intuit, they had something classified as a payroll administrator.
Okay.
Would you say that is like the be all and end all of the buck stops here as far as payroll is concerned.
Probably, if that's
Is
what,
that
I
what
don't
you
know
would
what
call that? Right.
payroll administrator what was the HR group have anything to do with the payroll? And I mean, because you're talking a much larger and I'm the small guy, which our benefits were.
Right, but I mean, if you're breaking down roles, like someone who would be
Administrator.
the ruler of payroll, right, and that would be all things dealing with payroll would be the payroll administrator, at least in terminology, as far as someone who has access to everything that runs the payroll, but
That
also oversees the policies and the time policies with through the owner, obviously, and that certainly could be the same person, right?
Yeah.
When you're starting out, but someone who would be in charge of those HR policies, time policies, and those other things that affect payroll. In addition to, now there's somebody who actually is now running the payroll. Could be the same person, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like in the hierarchy of a business. Would you?
It seems to me, and I can confirm, we can confirm with Caitlin, because the Intuit world would be the larger payroll that of course is on like ADP, right? We're over here in the QuickBooks built-in stuff. So I would think so. I mean, whoever determines that you're now supposed to get paid more money, then it's the administrators, then it's their duty to go in and make sure that those rates have been updated, so your next paycheck is reflecting of your good performance. So I imagine
what does ADP classify these roles as, when you're not just necessarily in the offering, but for working with businesses? What are they called?
What are these people called?
So, especially with small businesses, I feel like the names just vary depending on the company. As far as like access level, I usually see is it's typically the owner has the full on access. And the reason we set it up like that is because, especially now with the great resignation, people are constantly changing. So you don't want Sally, who is the only one with the ADP and her name's on everything, to now lose out on your ADP account. So we have the owner always on there. This way the owner can always call in and be like, hey, I need to add Carrie. She's the new person. Or you can go right online and add the user there, and then you can choose which level of access they want. But a lot of times I see the owner on there, the bookkeeper, the CPA, and then typically like a office admin or a payroll specialist or whatever they want to classify it as. There's just so many different names. Exactly.
Different
Finance
titles,
manager, finance manager, whoever wants to take on that role and take on the extra duties. Yeah. It varies so much.
Right. It's and Intuit had it that way as well. They had primary contact, and then they had payroll administrator. And that payroll administrator could have been the accountant. It could have been somebody at the office. But basically that boiled down to, who am I allowed to talk to about payroll if they were to contact Intuit directly. So I assume that's similar, right? With regards to ADP,
so what they do is
you have to have the contact information.
Yes, let's say we were to add Dan on as a contact. We would type in Dan. You can type in whatever the title is. You can type in whatever the title is. So that's not a drop-down box. The drop-down box is the level of access. So when you go to add them as a user, you can choose whether they can have general ledger access, they can have just report access, or if they can have payroll access. And then you can also choose all three. So it's really customizable. It's like, doesn't matter what the position is, what you call a position, what ADP calls the position. It's whatever access you want to actually grant that person.
So you have what I call it as the business owner, and then what access I have it as far as ADP is concerned when it comes to payroll access. So in general, Carrie, so we have the timekeeper.
Yeah.
Somebody keeps track of all the timekeeping
events. Whether they do it on paper and pencil or in cloud.
And then where would be the policymaker right? Would that all fall on the owner itself or the payroll administrator, or what would you think there would be? Is there another role, as far as those that make the payroll policies?
I would think the payroll policy is probably pretty high up. I would think that's an owner kind of thing. In a larger company, it would be something right below that, but it would probably be an owner level type thing, around those paid holidays and vacation policies and review policies and da 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 da. I would think that's pretty high up. As far as like updating someone's pay, I mean, that would be pretty high up as well, but maybe not as high as setting a whole company policy. Maybe Sally's due for a 5% raise. Somebody that's on an administrative level, not necessarily a policymaker, can go in and fix that. Because I would imagine if you were told by person A that you're getting a raise and person B doesn't do it because there's no communication structure, then the employee gets a little miffed.
Got it. Yeah, we don't want miffed.
No, payroll is one of those emotional things. I mean, if you mess up somebody's payroll, it's not good. So you want to be super, super careful to cross T's, dot I's, and check twice, 3 times, 4 times before you hit that submit button.
Yeah, that was always like when I first started at QuickBooks, it was always the heightened emotions on Friday, on payday Friday. Like I could remember one distinctly where somebody was holed up in the office and you could hear people banging on the door and basically say, I gotta get payroll out. It's not downloading, whatever, right? It's like when you mess with other people's money, it gets
really scary.
Yeah. So in terms of, access or, some of those roles and specific duties may actually have different areas or access of inside of the payroll system, whatever they're happening to use. Now, Kate, you were talking about, reports and those types of things. If you grant access to someone in ADP that has access to payroll, can you subdivide those things? Like some people can have access only to time entry approvals, or do they have access to everything payroll related?
They would have access to everything payroll related, only because when you run the payroll, the time's integrated. So if you guys do the timekeeping with ADP, everything just integrates right to the payroll. So you don't need to click any buttons to add the hours. As far as timekeeping, you can add, if you want to just do the times, they can go in and check that. But as far as payroll, like once you have payroll access, you also have timekeeping.
Right. I would think too, like it does, like what we do with QuickBooks, that you can have your timekeeping software sort of on its own island, so that people aren't actually seeing the rate, but they're able to check those hours, which is just a nice way, segregating those duties and having another set of eyes on that probably is a really good idea, because, the owner or the next person down can't do it all. I mean, especially as you grow.
Securities and roles and permissions is really a high, now that you're dealing with other people's money.
Yeah.
You're also dealing with other people's personally identifiable information on top of all that. So being able to see or access Social Security numbers or tax identification numbers or addresses, phone numbers.
Biggest room for bad people to do bad things. It can make up employee. You really have to have somebody trustworthy around payroll.
Yeah.
You have bank accounts, you have Social Security, you have the company's money, and then you have the employees' money, that you're messing with several pots of money.
So what kind of rigor did you have around that first hire that you gave all of that access to?
I know, because I was so swamped. Yeah, I still have Paula. I just trust her.
Yeah,
But you can screw that up. I mean, it could have easily been that I hired the wrong person to do that and they did something bad. You have to be super careful. In these days, if it's somebody you don't know, I just happen to know her. But if you hired somebody you didn't know for any length of time, you'd probably want to bond them and check. I mean, it's a scary world right now. I get real scared and nervous when anyone's dealing or touching anything that has to do with our company money, for sure.
Right. So so security, those roles and how they relate to the actual payroll system that you're actually using. I know, Carrie, you're a big fan of enterprise for QuickBooks because of that. Like when you've got payroll included inside of your QuickBooks, you've got access to inventory levels. You have basically the keys to the entire castle if you have everything inside of your QuickBooks. So that's one thing to consider. When you're considering what flavor of accounting software or your tech stack, right? Is it all in one like enterprise, or is it was my time completely separate? Because anybody who's in time cannot see anything else, right? So if they're employee access and in the grand scheme of things, ADP and as well as QuickBooks, you have what the employee can see, so that's completely separate. QuickBooks has the workplace. What is
workforce? It's changed names a few dozen times.
Right. And then ADP has an employee portal as well, right?
Right. So in 2021,
I'm asking Kate, not you.
Oh, I'm ready to answer the question that I thought was.
Well, because you use ADP, so I mean.
Oh, I'm going to give you the difference when she's done. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, we have the employee portal, so they can view that on the app on their phone, or they can view it from the website. So it's super easy. I mean, I personally check my ADP app all the time, even before I joined ADP. I feel like I check it just like social media, just let's see if the paycheck's in yet. Although now you just know you get paid every week, but it's still fun to check.
So
what
were you going to say before you rudely interrupted Kate?
Sorry, because I get like a little child, like I want to answer, I got mine answer. So I used assisted payroll from when I went out on my own and launched CBG in 2010, and then hired Paula the next year. So I was using assisted payroll from that point forward, but over those years we've grown like crazy, so it's gotten much more complicated. When it was just me and Paula, those days were real easy and they're long gone. But anyway, so using assisted payroll was great. I could have, when we hired people, we put them into QuickBooks and they didn't have access. You couldn't see the payroll because we had hundreds of options to create the security. And our hourly people, young people, loved the T-sheets at the time, which is all changed, but that's another story. So they would go on their phone and type in their time, and she would pull it in, and life was great. And we ran payroll, no big deal. She was actually the time, she was the approver and all that stuff, and I didn't have to do anything. So, then we've grown like crazy over the years, and the employees were like, I need to, where's my pay stub? And I'm thinking all this time they were getting an email or something. No, they needed to get into this workforce thing. And then I had to do all this inviting in and blah, blah, blah. And they could kind of get their stuff. And they were like, yeah, okay. They weren't real thrilled with it, but at least they could get to it. So I got them off my back. Well, then this year we decided to try the ADP experience. And although it's not inside of QuickBooks, that's the one con, is that we have to import it in through a general ledger. But it comes in as a summary, so nobody can see whose payroll's what, even if they can see the income statement and stuff. But what I've gotten feedback on the employee side, because you have to consider their side as well, is they really, really, really love the app. They're like, this is so much better, heads and tails above what you used to give me in the other world. So that feedback has been
workforce.
that's been a big win. And then of course, as we've grown, I reach out to Kate and I'm like, all right, we need to talk about some other things, bells and whistles we can do within ADP. And so we're slowly going down the options in the list of a company our size and making sure we take advantage of benefits and all that kind of stuff for our employees. So it's been a great experience for me, but it does change those hats. The hats have changed.
Yeah, there's so many different hats out there.
Right. And some people don't look good in hats.
No.
But the one thing that I was noticing when I was looking at the roles and security inside of QuickBooks Online is that there are a lot of contingency permissions when you have payroll inside of your QuickBooks. So Online Advanced is being the one that's touted as having the most user permission roles flexibility, right? But they have a role set up for payroll manager. The options are full access or no access, so there's not much not much to do with that.
On or off.
There's this tempting check boxes that you can't check. So when you that's like it's a teaser, right?
Like it's coming soon.
Exactly, right. So it's basically they built the framework or the foundation of the house. There's just no walls to it
free
yet.
For all for right now.
But you can have people, eventually you'll be able to have people create transactions and not edit transactions, and you'll have it the other way around where they can edit, delete transactions but not create transactions. So you'll be able to get a little bit more flexible as far as that, but nothing in comparison to enterprise. But what was surprising to me when I was looking at it is that if you give somebody payroll access, they have to have access to everything AP and expenses. So they have access to all the vendors. They have access to all because they have to see the checks in the register. So they have to see the banking information, which now lends itself to other things that maybe you don't want them to see. So when you're faced with roles and responsibilities and restrictions on what you allow people to see, that might be a case for let's maybe use something outside of QuickBooks altogether when it comes to payroll. If I really don't want them to have access to some of these things inside of QuickBooks, if you're using online, if you're using enterprise, as Carrie would say, just throw it into the wind. You have, but you have that robust flexibility of being able to minimize people's access to what check register they can actually see. So you can have everything payroll related in a payroll bank account.
Yes.
And they can only see that particular payroll information without seeing, well, how much are you paying for your inventory or whatever the case may be.
Right. Which is a really good call out, because when, as Intuit goes through all its different product launches and stuff, as you were on the other side of the wall when this happened, they used to have the full service payroll independent. You could sit on the beach and run payroll, but you had to import it in. And one of my complaints was, well, all the payroll's coming in and everyone can see it. And so I was sitting at a round table talking about that. And one of our, people that do the same thing we do, buddies, said, just bring it in its own check register, and then, and then have journal entries bringing it out of your regular register, so that and then lock that down to only people that need to see payroll, because it was bringing in Carrie Con and whatever my check was. And, that's not exactly, what you want to do. You want that to be confidential. I mean, it just isn't something you should splatter all out there.
Right. Like your age, your weight, your how much you make, and your political affiliation, things that you just don't ask.
No, you don't do that. No,
people, and you don't want other people to know.
Nope. So the enterprise permissions is really good with that. Like you said, like you called out, you can lock down a particular bank register, and it literally will just say, you don't have access to this register. And maybe they just want to see operating, paying bills, and not it. So that's one of the main standouts that enterprise has heads and tails above QBO Advanced.
So it's just one of those things to consider. when you're choosing which version to use, and how payroll fits into that. And that's just another one of the aspects, major aspects of running a business is payroll. So you've got all those other things to consider as well. So that's kind of our workshop today. Carrie, do you have any other final thoughts, things to add? Kate?
No.
Is that awkward pause at the end?
I think we did everything I can think of.
What is that called? It's like the Zoom, the Zoom pause where you're like, "Are we done? Is it over?" There it is. There it was. All right. So next week we're actually going to hit a pause. Not going to be having our workshop Wednesday. I'm actually having a procedure done. So I won't be able to run the show here. So we'll just skip next week and then go right
back
into
to normal.
Back to normal a week from, or 2 weeks from today. So
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us for Workshop Wednesday, and we'll see you next time.
Till have a great week.